All right, so are you ready to dive into a case that'll make you rethink peaceful island life?
Oh, yeah. This one's a doozy.
We're heading to Phillip Island, Australia.
Famous for those penguins, right?
Exactly. But this story, it's definitely not cute.
No, not at all.
We're talking about a murder mystery full of inconsistencies and enough twists and turns to make your head spin.
It's the kind of case that'll keep you guessing until the very end.
So let's paint a picture for you. It's September 23rd, 1986. Sergeant Cliff Ash is back at his desk after some time off.
Probably thinking he's in for a quiet day.
Right. And then suddenly, two men from a prominent local family, the Camerons, show up at the station with some unsettling news.
And the way they deliver this news is really strange.
Oh yeah, it's our first hint that's summed off.
Instead of saying Beth Barnard has been found dead,
They just say she's not well.
almost like they're trying to downplay the situation.
Yeah, it's super suspicious.
Definitely raises a red flag.
So Sergeant Ash, being the experienced officer he is, doesn't waste any time.
No, he doesn't.
He heads straight to Beth's farmhouse with these two men, Donald and Ian Cameron.
And they find the back door slightly open.
Inside, it's a scene straight out of a nightmare.
You know, the way Beth's body is found adds another layer of intrigue to this whole thing.
It's creepy, right?
Yeah, she's lying on her bedroom floor, and someone has carefully pulled a quilt up to her nose.
Like they were trying to hide what they did.
Exactly. It's unsettling.
And the brutality of the murder is just chilling.
It's a very violent scene.
Her throat's deeply slashed.
Mm-hmm.
There's a gash on her lip, a knife lying nearby. And get this, the letter A is carved into her torso.
That A, it just screams symbolism, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Now, it could be a signature, a message to taunt investigators, or even a misdirection tactic by the killer.
I mean, it's one of those details that really sticks with you.
It becomes central to the entire investigation.
All right, so now let's bring in the love triangle that throws a whole other wrench into things.
This is where things get complicated.
Turns out Beth had been having an affair with Fergus Cameron Donald's brother. Fergus is married to Vivien, or Viv for short.
Okay.
And their relationship was already pretty rocky. The night before Beth's murder, Fergus and Viv had this huge fight about the affair.
I bet.
A fight that landed Fergus in the hospital needing stitches.
So where does Viv fit into all of this?
Well, she disappears.
That complicates things even further.
It does. And her disappearance raises a ton of questions.
Like, what happened to her?
Exactly. She drops Fergus off at his sister's place after the hospital visit, claims she's going home.
And then vanishes.
Vanishes, along with the family's Land Cruiser, a flatbed truck.
No way.
Later, she even makes this strange phone call to a friend at 3 in the morning.
In the morning.
Yeah, claiming she's at the hospital with Fergus.
Wow.
Which turns out to be a complete lie.
So you have this brutal murder, a missing wife, and a potential motive.
It's like the perfect setup for a classic whodunit.
It really is.
What really stood out to me, though, was this. The police don't interview Fergus or any other members of the Cameron family on the first day of the investigation.
That's interesting. Why the delay?
Right. It makes you wonder if there was any preferential treatment involved.
Because of the Cameron family's standing in the community.
Exactly. This delay in interviewing key individuals, especially those closest to both the victim and the missing wife, is a major anomaly.
It is, and it definitely raises some eyebrows.
It really makes you question the thoroughness of the initial investigation.
For sure.
Anyway, the plot thickens when the police find the Land Cruiser abandoned near the bridge connecting the island to the mainland.
Oh, wow. So the Land Cruiser turns up.
It does, and the location's interesting because it fuels this theory that Viv killed Beth in a fit of jealous rage, drove to the bridge, and jumped.
The placement near a bridge is often associated with suicide attempts.
Right, so it's a natural conclusion for investigators to reach.
It makes sense on the surface.
And to add fuel to that fire, they interpret the A carved on Beth's chest as a reference to the Scarlet Letter.
Reinforcing this image of a scorned, vengeful wife.
Exactly. It all seems to fit neatly into their narrative except for a few glaring inconsistencies.
Like what?
For starters, why were there hay bales in the Land Cruiser if Viv supposedly drove straight to the bridge?
That's a good question.
And if the police were actively searching for the Land Cruiser, how did it take so long to find it? It was parked in a very visible location near a bus stop.
Those are excellent points. Those hay bales in particular throw a wrench into the whole quick escape and suicide attempt theory.
Right. They suggest an alternative sequence of events, one that investigators may have overlooked in their eagerness to pin the crime on Viv.
It happens sometimes.
And then there's the autopsy report.
Okay, what does that say?
It confirms that Beth's death was swift and violent, and here's the kicker.
Yeah.
The A was carved post-mortem.
Post-mortem, so after she was already dead.
Yeah, so if Viv didn't kill Beth, who did?
And what really happened to her?
We'll dive deeper into those questions and more in part 2 of this deep dive.
Can't wait. Matt, this case just keeps getting weirder and weirder.
I know, right? It's like every time we think we're getting close to the truth,
another curveball comes flying our way.
Exactly. Yeah. So last time we left off with the police pretty convinced that Viv was our culprit.
Yeah, they seemed pretty sure about that.
But things are about to take a sharp turn away from that theory.
Oh, really? What happens?
Well, we get those forensic reports back.
Okay.
And none of them place Viv at Beth's farmhouse.
None of them.
No fingerprints, no DNA, no fibers from her clothing, nothing.
Oh, that's a huge twist.
I know, right? The police have this whole theory built around Viv being the jealous, vengeful wife.
Yeah.
And then the forensic evidence comes back and basically says, nope, not her.
It's like their whole case just falls apart.
It really makes you wonder what else they might have missed.
Right. If Viv was the killer, you'd expect to find some trace of her at the crime scene.
But the forensics tell a different story.
It's like the case is slowly unraveling before our eyes.
And remember those fingerprints they found at the scene?
Yeah.
Well, aside from Beth's, the only ones they find belong to Donald and Ian, the two guys who discovered her body.
The ones who said she was not well.
Exactly. But here's the weird part. There are no fingerprints on the knife found near Beth's body.
Wait, not even hers.
Not even hers.
That's strange. Whoever killed Beth had to be wearing gloves or wiped the knife clean.
It's super creepy.
It definitely points to a more calculated crime.
Remember those cigarettes we talked about earlier?
The ones found in Beth's house.
Yeah, the police initially thought they might belong to Viv.
Mm-hmm.
But get what? No connection to her whatsoever.
Really?
No DNA, no fingerprints, nothing.
So much for that theory.
It's like the case is full of these dead ends.
It makes you wonder if they were focusing on the wrong person from the very beginning.
Okay, get this. The bloodstains found in the Land Cruiser.
Oh yeah, what about those?
They weren't even Beth's.
Whose were they?
Turns out the blood belonged to Fergus.
Fergus.
Most likely from that fight with Viv the night before.
So that completely dismantles the narrative that Viv transported Beth's body or cleaned up any evidence in the Land Cruiser.
It really does. It's like the police built their entire case on this shaky foundation of assumptions. And now the whole thing is starting to crumble.
The evidence clearly points away from Viv being the killer.
So if not her, then who?
That's the million-dollar question.
And where is she?
Right, she's still missing.
This is still a missing persons case, and Viv's family is desperate for answers.
They must be going through so much.
They're adamant that Viv, despite her issues with Fergus, would never harm anyone.
And especially not abandon her sons.
Right, they describe her as a loving, devoted mother.
Yeah.
Sure, she was going through a rough patch in her marriage, but they can't fathom that she's capable of murder.
It's hard to believe you could do something like that.
Plus, if she was planning to kill Beth, and then herself, why would she even bother calling Robin to take care of her sons?
That's true. It just doesn't add up.
It's one of those details that just doesn't fit.
It suggests a level of concern for her children that seems completely incompatible with the actions of someone planning a murder-suicide.
Right, so if we're ruling out Viv, then who does that leave us with?
That's a good question.
Well, the police start re-examining the evidence.
Okay.
And they take a closer look at Fergus.
Fergus.
Remember, he wasn't even interviewed until 2 days after the murder.
Yeah, that was weird.
Which gave him plenty of time to concoct an alibi or dispose of any evidence.
True. And he had a pretty strong motive, too.
Silencing Beth to protect his reputation and his marriage.
His delayed interview is definitely suspicious.
And it's not just Fergus. They start looking into anyone and everyone who might have had a reason to want Beth dead.
Casting a wider net.
Even delving into the possibility of a hidden conflict or a secret someone was desperate to keep buried.
Small towns often have their share of secrets and rivalries.
It's true. You never know what's going on behind closed doors.
And sometimes those secrets can be deadly.
But as the investigation drags on, the leads start to dry up.
Oh no, another dead end.
No one seems to have seen anything suspicious.
And the forensic evidence doesn't point definitively to anyone.
It's a classic example of a case hitting a wall.
Without any solid leads or compelling evidence, it becomes incredibly difficult to identify a suspect and build a strong case.
And what about Viv?
Right, what happened to her?
The search for her continues, but she's vanished without a trace.
It's like she just disappeared into thin air.
Did she run away to escape the drama and accusations?
Or was she the victim of foul play?
Is she alive or dead?
It's a mystery that continues to haunt the island and those who knew her.
Viv's disappearance adds another layer of tragedy to this already complex case.
It really does. It's a heartbreaking reminder that sometimes, even with all the advancements in forensic science and investigative techniques, the truth can remain elusive.
So here we are, the final chapter in this really baffling case.
The case of Beth Barnard and Vivien Cameron.
It's a story that's taken us through so many twists and turns.
And left us with more questions than answers, really.
We've got this tangled web of relationships.
Conflicting evidence.
And all these lingering mysteries that just won't go away.
It's like a puzzle with missing pieces.
It really makes you wonder what really happened.
It's a case that highlights the complexities of truth and justice.
Last time we talked about how the police hit a dead end.
Yeah, they really struggled to find any solid leads.
But that doesn't mean people stopped searching for answers.
No, of course not.
Years later, a journalist named Vicky Petratus became obsessed with the case.
You know, it's often the dedication of people like Vicky that breathes new life into cold cases.
Right. She was determined to uncover anything that might have been missed.
And she found some interesting things, didn't she?
She did, especially about Viv's disappearance.
Like what?
Well, remember that black handbag Robin found at Fergus and Viv's house?
Oh, yeah, the handbag. What about it?
It turns out that wasn't just any old handbag.
Oh.
It was the one Viv always carried, the one she kept all her important documents in.
So why would she leave that behind?
Exactly. It doesn't make sense if she was planning to run away or take her own life.
If you're trying to start a new life or end it all, you'd probably take your important documents with you.
Right, and it wasn't just the handbag that was missing.
What else was gone?
Her driver's license, bank cards, and a lot of cash.
Wow. It's almost like she was preparing for something.
Whether it's a planned departure or a desperate escape, we just don't know.
These missing items definitely suggest a level of planning and intention.
That doesn't fit with the image of a distraught woman on the verge of a breakdown.
It's a whole different perspective on Viv's state of mind.
Vicky also uncovered some inconsistencies in the timeline surrounding the discovery of the Land Cruiser.
Oh, really? Tell me more.
Remember Pam Donald's wife?
Yeah.
She was the one who found the vehicle. But her account doesn't quite add up.
It doesn't.
Not when you compare it to other witness statements.
Interesting.
And why did she take the racetrack keys, roll up the windows, and lock the doors before reporting it to the police?
That is strange. What was she doing?
It's like she was trying to protect something or someone.
But we don't know for sure.
And then there are those hay bales in the Land Cruiser.
Oh, yeah. Those were never fully explained.
They don't seem to fit with any of the theories about Viv's actions.
It's almost like they were planted there to throw off the investigation.
Maybe so Vicky's investigation might not have solved the case.
But it definitely brought it back into the spotlight.
People started talking again, sharing their theories and suspicions.
And the rumors of a possible cover-up started to gain traction.
Unfortunately, despite all the speculation and renewed interest, the case remains officially unsolved.
So Beth's murder and Viv's disappearance are still open wounds on Phillip Island.
A constant reminder of a dark chapter that has never truly been closed.
It's a tough pill to swallow that sometimes, even with all the tools and resources available, the truth can remain hidden.
This case really highlights the fact that justice isn't always served.
And that some mysteries may never be fully solved.
So after this deep dive into the case, what are your thoughts?
I'm still not sure what to believe. There's just so much we don't know.
Was Viv the victim of a tragic series of events?
Or did she manage to escape and start a new life?
Was there someone else involved who managed to get away with murder?
It's a question that continues to haunt this case.
This case truly shows that even with forensic science and dedicated detectives, sometimes the truth remains elusive.
It might be out there somewhere.
But for now, the mystery of Beth Barnard and Vivien Cameron continues.
It's a case that'll stay with me for a long time.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a wild ride.
If you have any thoughts or theories, be sure to share them with us.
We'd love to hear what you think.
And until next time, keep those minds curious.
And always question everything.